authenticity, which is only as good as, of course, the paper it's written on. Because, of course, the person who's selling it to you would basically say, oh, you know, this is authentic. So it says that this Spanish outfit has written this authentication document that it is done, it's certified that it is done by Degas. It doesn't tell you anything about the provenance or information about who had it before you. So it came in this nice frame?
Yes.
Okay. So what is it? What kind of work of art is it? Is it an oil painting? Is it an engraving? Is it a print? What is it?
I think it's an acrylic on paper.
You think it's an acrylic on paper? Acrylic paint is not introduced until 1945. Degas dies before 1920. How could it be an acrylic on paper?
That's what I read.
If the guy's dead, could he pick up before the acrylic paint is introduced? How could he paint this? Do you have a way he could do that? Because if he could do that, then he could help me lose weight. Right? I mean, come on. It does look to be acrylic on paper. It's possible that it is a print by Degas that, in fact, somebody else highlighted with the acrylic paint. But the man is dead before the paint is invented. It's invented after World War II. So, what does that mean about your certificate of authenticity?
Not worth the paper it's written.
Not worth the paper it's written on. Value on the piece I see here, about $250. What did you pay? $750. Do you think if you had an original Degas, $750 would be enough? Do you think somebody who knew they had an original Degas would actually do that? Actually, I was in Houston some years ago when I evaluated a Degas pastel that was found at a yard sale in New Orleans. And in fact, interestingly enough, that piece was worth $98,000, almost $100,000. And that was an original Degas, right? So if you were really buying an original and somebody knew it wasn't original, $750 would not be the conversation you'd be having. Just a thought. Thank you for bringing it. You've educated all of us. So this particular piece, so you liked it, you wanted it. What do you like about it?
It's just a pleasant.
Pleasant.
Yeah.
It's nice.
The little dogs and then the sail.
The little dogs are nice.
Sail.
How about the figure? The figure's crappy.
Yeah, I know.
Figure's not great. The dogs are better than the figure. I like the tree.
The tree is great.
See the tree?
Yeah.
The tree's nice. I don't mind the background. I don't like the boats. Well, you got to break it down. Not everything's perfect. I worked in all kinds of museums all over the world. There are dogs in museums. There are paintings that shouldn't be there that aren't great. Just because for some reason it ends up in the museum. Mrs. O'Leary's going to give us the Rembrandt, but we got to take 50 of her grandson's paintings too. You think that doesn't happen? That happens, right? Not all the time. Usually they're in storage, but you got to take them. All right, so this, I like the tree. The artist is relatively well known. Do you know the artist?
I looked him up. Yeah.
Okay, what'd you find out about him?
Born in Holland.
Born in
came
Holland.
To, Grand Rapids, I believe.
Michigan.
And then moved to Massachusetts, and in his later years went down to Florida.
Okay, so he's an itinerant painter in some ways, but basically what you have here is a painting that has been cut down to fit this size. Okay, so parts of it are cut. Let's look at that from the back. This is all standard size, but this here, you see, was bigger. Okay, so they cut all this area, all the way through to make it matte, to put it onto this particular piece, which is why I like the tree, right? The tree's been cut. I'd like more of the tree, and there was more of the tree, right? The tree was up here. The tree was the thing. That's why my eye is going here. All the attention, all the time, all the effort is on this tree. And then something happened, and they cut that part off. I don't think this is the person who painted this. I don't think that is his hand. I think somebody else helped that out. Do you all see that? How faulty that is? That figure is too big, right? Compared to the other things around him, right? I don't know, he's like Shaquille O'Neal tall. Compared to this tree, compared to that island, compared to that dog. Too big. I don't think that is the same hand as that. And that's from years of looking at works of art. It's oil on canvas. It dates to the middle part of the 20th century. Value on the piece as it sits, about $250. Why do these folks go from this tag that says $175 down to $135 down to 30 bucks? Because he thinks he has to move it. A lot of sellers think they have to move their inventory. Oh, well, it's been sitting around the shop too long, I got to get rid of it. So then just lower the price to get rid of it because they think it'll never sell for well. You got to get more people to look at the object. That's why when you're selling online, you've got to make sure that you're marketing it to a lot of different people. These are some of the selling tips that I put on drloriv.com, and when you subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube/drloriv, you can learn these other tips. So the frame has been repainted. The frame is not the original paint or image for it, this style. It's just been repainted with gold paint. This was actually gilded at one point. It's a composition matter frame. That means that this frame is wood, and then it is molded composition matter, which is like a plaster of Paris, right? And then they basically mold these decorative elements here. It's not carved, it's molded. And then they put red paint all the way around to attract your eye, and then gold leaf. They didn't do any of the red paint and any of the gold leaf, they just painted it gold. Value on the frame, which has been damaged significantly, about 50 bucks. Pretty good. How'd you acquire this?
It was a gift to my mother.
Somebody gave it to your mother?
When we lived in Naples, Italy.
Is it actually a painting?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Positive.
How are you positive?
Looking at the oil.
What is it painted on?
It's painted on wood.
Painted on wood. And was your mother a smoker?
Yes.
Was she? Did I know your mother?
No.
No. How do I know that she smoked? Because the antiques don't lie, people do.
Yeah.
The object has been in the area of smoke nicotine. It has the same kind of nicotine haze as you might find in your fingers or your teeth over time smoking. Everybody smokes. Not like it's a bad thing, and it's not like the painting needs to be cleaned, but there is that residue over it. So what you have is you have an oil on panel, and this is different. For those of you who are watching on the YouTube channel, a lot of people say, I understand about canvases, Dr. Lori, but is it okay if I have a piece that's painted onto wood? This piece is wood. The support is wood. The Mona Lisa is painted on wood, right? So we are painting on wood way, way, way back when oil paint is introduced in the 1500s. Because oil paint is not introduced in the Renaissance, that's tempera or egg-based paint. You take an egg, you're gonna beat it, and then basically you put the pigment in it. This is the oil, so this is the panel. So the panel has to be prepared. What does that mean? It has to be prepared to accept the oil. If you put the oil on it, it's just gonna come right off basically. So what they do is they will take gesso or rabbit skin glue, and they'll place that on it, and then they literally, many artists will also then put one layer of in or under painting. That one layer of underpainting is usually red to attract the eye. You don't see the red now, but the underpainting is a red color because the optic nerve is stimulated most by red. You're in a baby shower with a baby, you're wearing a red blouse, that kid's not coming off your lap the whole afternoon. So wear green to baby showers, that's my tip. Otherwise that kid's gonna be crying on your lap the whole day. This particular piece is a piece which is European. It dates anytime between 1875 and 1895, and value on it is about $750. It has some craquelure, which is different from crazing. Crazing is for ceramics. Craquelure indicates that that gesso is starting to pop underneath the pigment. That's very, very common, but the way it starts to pop and the pattern that it makes actually indicates age. So I know that this piece comes from about the 1870s in, of course, Europe because of the way the craquelure is starting to actually change. That's a nice piece. I'd add another $75 for the frame. The frame is not fantastic. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Look at the type of painting this is. It's very light, it's very, impressionistic. It really doesn't go with this heavy-handed frame. So while I think it fits, I think someone made this frame specifically for this painting. I don't think that's what was intended. The person who had this particular painting was a smoker. Heavy. You know, my Aunt Chris, 2 packs a day. 94 years old, and the doctor says, Chris, you've got to stop smoking. And she says, I'm 96, you know what? I won this game. I'm not quitting. I'm going till the end. Oh, and she did. The doctor dropped dead a couple of years later, and she's still smoking. So, you know. But the nicotine haze you can see, the same nicotine you'll see on your hands or on your teeth, is on the painting. Okay, so that's not the worst thing. Tell me a little bit about what you know about the artist. This is oil on canvas. This is a stretch, actually a impression from another frame, not this frame. There was a frame that covered this over time. This frame, this painting also, from the application of the brushstrokes, this particular painting also was in a place that was rather hot and rather cold. Hot, cold, hot, cold. Okay. They had it priced at $1,100 in this frame.
Yeah.
And you said, I'll give you $150.
I think I said 75.
I'll give you 75. Okay, so you came up. See, you're hearing how this is done? And I don't want to be sexist about this, but men do it and women don't. Women shop, men negotiate. Start negotiating, ladies. You don't have to, you don't have to make a million friends doing it. Be polite, have cash. Did you pay cash? Paid cash, right? Money talks. You know, and say, gee, will you take a better offer? Or gee, I'd like to do this. Okay, so you got him down from $1,100 because it has that big honking frame on it, right? And then you said, okay, I'll give you 75. And they said, well, okay, how about double? And you said, okay. What did you like about it?
Well, she actually recognized the artist.
She recognizes the artist.
Yep.
So Rachel, with her background in art and historic preservation, recognized the artist. Who's the artist and what do you know?
A.B. Jeffries.
A.B. Jeffries. Where is A.B. Jeffries' painting? Okay, so he's trained and he's also a well-known Texas artist. So the house is in Mississippi, so most of the folks who are there may not recognize a Texas artist. Okay, so the painting gets to another place. There's a label on the frame. It's not like the people who owned it originally didn't know, but the estate sale people didn't bother to do the work. How hard is this? There's the thing, right? And
They had like a Wikipedia printout
they had a Wikipedia printout.
taped to the wall next to
Okay, and then it was just basically, they did look it up. They
wanted
found
it to
out
look
that,
like this is a famous artist. You have to pay $1,100.
okay, but he is a famous artist,
Right.
and other pieces have sold for about
Other
$1,100.
people would pay that if they weren't.
Well, you have to get enough people into the estate sale who are knowledgeable and who aren't you first, maybe, or who aren't you even last to say, okay, I'm going to make a negotiation. And then if you're going to put that up as an estate sale person, and I know it's not always easy to sell things, but if you're going to do that, then you've got to stand firm at $1,100. Because if I were their client, I'd be like, you sold that for $150? I want the $1,000 rest of it from you then, right? Okay, so you know that it's a Texas artist, you know it's in pretty good shape, right? It's in pretty good shape. It's consistent with what type of work he typically does. So it's not like out of the ordinary, like, well, it might be his signature, but it doesn't look like his subject matter, it doesn't look like his brushstrokes. It does look like that, right? This piece is worth about $5,000. You got it for $150 at an estate sale. If you think there isn't stuff out there, you are kidding yourself. It is out there. Most people are giving it away, or they're allowing people who do not have the background to sell the stuff for you. You can do the work, you can find the things, and you can find the bargains too. If you like that frame, good luck to you. But that frame is really heavy, and that frame is putting undue stress on the painting. So you may not want that frame, and you may want something that looks better. If you're going to sell it, don't do anything. Put it back in that frame and let the next guy do it. Okay? If you're going to sell it and you don't care about holding it, it's my opinion that you just let the next guy take care of it. Sell it in that frame. Don't do anything. Don't clean it. Don't, repair it. It doesn't need cleaning or repaired, but with any work, don't get a new frame. Don't do anything. Let the next person do it. Sold that way. It's a $5,000 painting all day, every day. They were low at $1,100. It should not have been part of an estate sale. So what does that tell all of you thrifters out there? It tells you that you should be looking at estate sales. And where should you be going at estate sales? You should be looking at estate sales of those folks who have lived in a home about 40 or 50 years. Why? That's where all the big auction houses are going. That's where all of the estate people are going. You want Mrs. Jones, who's been in the same house or been in the same family house for the last 50 years.
Yeah, that property was owned owned by the family from the early 1800s.
Where this painting was, the property was owned by that family, Rachel's saying, Stephen's saying, you know, from the 1800s. That's what you want, because usually what happens is, think of yourself. It's very simple. Think of yourself. Do you want to schlep out all of your mother's stuff? No. You'd rather have somebody just buy it off the wall as opposed to try to move it somewhere else. And that's what happens with lots of people. You get busy. The other thing is, when it comes to this, try not to make these decisions about your heirlooms, your family heirlooms, your art, antiques, and collectibles when someone has just passed. Try to prepare prior to that. That's why I offer all these services at drloriv.com to help you identify what's valuable beforehand, so you can make a decision when you're not upset. So you can make a decision, you know, when you can really have all your wits about you. That kind of thing. And try to get along, for God's sakes, with your family. Even if your brother or sister are a pain in the you-know-what, try to get along, because there is a lot of money in this stuff. Good for you, good for you, good for you. That's a wonderful painting. It's in good condition. You got to make sure that it is on a wall, which is an interior wall, not an exterior wall, out of direct sunlight. And again, try to get something that's not as heavy, so you're not putting undue stress on the stretchers. The stretcher tells you a lot too about, of course, how well it was done. Look at how neatly these pieces are done. This is a process that this artist would do over and over and over again.